Welcome to New Life Live, the premier place to receive free advice from Christian psychologists and counselors for the mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual challenges you face. Since 1988, we've offered compassionate responses that combine God's truth with proven psychological principles to guide you toward healing. Our phone lines are open. Call us now at 1-800-229-3000.
Welcome to this Thursday episode of New Life Live. My name is Brian Perez, and we are here today to answer the questions that you might have for our licensed marriage and family therapists. Today we've got Marc Cameron and Chris Williams. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
We're doing really well.
Yeah.
Yay, glad to hear that. Chris, what's on your mind today?
Okay, so what's on my mind is happiness.
Yay.
And so, but there's a better word, I think, for us than happiness. And oftentimes in our scriptural translations, it's called contentment. And in fact, in 1 Timothy, it's referred to, he's talking to Timothy about not getting caught up in too much stress around financial gain or losses and being careful around that. And that really speaks to me, something I've struggled with for almost my whole life based on some childhood things. And so money stress is something that tends to get to me a little bit more. And Paul says later in a different book and letter to the Philippians, he talked about learning the secret of contentment, whether he has much or whether he has little. But going back to Timothy, he talks about godliness with contentment is of worth great riches. You know, in today's world, there is so much information out there that is what I would refer to as rage bait. Baiting us into discontentment, baiting us into anger, baiting us into fear. That it is just fed on us constantly. And that really has a negative, formative impact on our souls. You know, doom scrolling is a formative action. And I know this all too well. You know, and so it's really, really important that we, especially we as Christians, we as people of faith, that not just for our faith, but for our mental health, for our relational health, that we not be formed by fear and anger, that we not be formed by rage, but that we be formed by a trust in a loving God and a good God and his good world that is in being formed into the goodness of God all around us and inside of us. And really, the end result of that is being able to access much, much, much more readily this, what Paul calls the secret of contentment. I know where my source of confidence and security lies in the world, and it's simply in the unending love and goodness of God that is working in and through me. And I want this for us to be more than just a Sunday school challenge today, because this is a muscle that has to be worked out over and over and over. And there's a lot of days where it's just a straight up dogfight to fight for the secret of contentment and fight against all of the temptations around anger and fear that exist in our world today.
Yeah, that's really good, because there's a difference between an emotion and an attitude. So happiness is an emotion. It's a temporary feeling, whereas contentment is an attitude that can endure regardless of the temporary feeling that you have in that moment. And so it's learning to be able to choose our attitudes so that can be the overarching thing that dominates in our lives, regardless of what you're saying here, Chris, people who try to bait us into different things.
That's really good. I love that distinction, Mark, between attitude and feeling. That's really important.
So if you are constantly consuming content that is making you discontent, we can help you. If you go to our website, newlife.com, we've got so many resources there that can put you on the right path. We've got videos and things on our YouTube channel. We've got podcasts available. So much going on at newlife.com. Hey, thank you so much for listening today. We are going to get right to the phones when we come back in a few minutes here. We've got Carmen on hold and Juan and Joe and others coming in, calling in today on this program that we are recording, and you will hear it here on New Life Live. Thank you so much for your phone calls today. We'll be back.
Restore gave me strength. It gave me more belief in my faith. I met up with a group of women that are going through things that they had no control over.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Intensive will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
When two people want to do their part, we can be restored. But if they don't, we can still be restored. We are not stuck because someone else made a decision. That God lets us weigh in on how we want to walk out our lives. Our wellness does not hinge on another person's decision.
The Restore Intensive is coming to Dallas, Texas, May 2nd through the 4th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50.
I had a great experience at Restore.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Let's get right to the phones on this New Life Live. We're going to start in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Here is Carmen, who is listening to us on KCFO. Hello, Carmen. Thanks for calling in today.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Better than now that you called.
Oh, thank you kindly. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so thanks for listening. And how can we help you today?
Well, I'm a long-time listener, and today's topic, wow, it's one of the things that I have struggled with all my life. Due to depression, anxiety, and a background of very different dysfunctions, let's say it that way, in my background. So I am middle-aged now, almost, and working towards my goals. But life has thrown me too many curveballs, so to speak. And as I was approaching middle age, I am, making my list, my goals, my retirement, savings, how much longer I'm going to work, how much insurance I'm going to have, if any, where do I retire to, and all the money issues. Well, unexpectedly, last year, I took a bad fall and got injured badly, but lived. So at that time, I reviewed my plans and my goals towards earlier retirement because the 15, 20-year plan was not going to work. So I reviewed it, the 15 to 20 into 10. Then, trying to be realistic, set up a 5-year plan. And, based on if that one don't work, I still have the 15 and 20 goals. I just have to move them closer. So now I have 10, 5, 3, maybe 1 year. And then I am trying to live one day at a time, doing what I know to do since I have gotten help along the way, several counselors, several ministries.
Okay.
I'm a Christian and stand on the word. So now that I've had to revise my plan, and I am on the shorter end of the stick and going on there fast, I'm looking for help. And I've gotten some. Well, what else can you recommend so that in managing money one day at a time, I can swim when I am really not a strong swimmer, not an Olympian by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you guys recommend to Carmen?
So Carmen, it sounds like, if I'm getting your story here, that you're struggling with some anxiety. Is that right?
Anxiety, depression, and in my background, there's bipolar. There's misdiagnosed bipolar, and there's one case that was caught earlier and had better treatment and more stability, but he has a myriad of. He made a list recently and shared it with the family on a chat, and I was like, whoa, why did you do that? He says, after all my life struggles, I'm learning to be transparent.
When you say bipolar disorder and misdiagnosed, are you talking about yourself or are you talking about someone else?
About my mom.
Oh, about your mom. Okay. But yeah, let us help you with your anxiety and depression. It sounds like you are really struggling with a lot of unknowns here. Now, anxiety and depression, they can be mood disorders, and so I would encourage you to get under the care of a physician and check that out. But if they're not biological, they're often caused by environmental factors in our lives and in our past history. So I don't know if you have a therapist, but getting in with a therapist and being able to kind of to process through your life story and where some of your anxiety and depression first started can be really helpful for you to be able to work out how to do some treatment in the present here. Are you in therapy or have you attended therapy before?
Carmen, are you there? Oh, the call dropped.
We might drop to... Okay, Chris, but you probably have a thought here, too.
Yeah, I do, because it's along those same lines, and it's this. You had mentioned in a previous show, Mark, that, these are my words, not yours, but it's along the same lines. When you address the wrong problem, you come up with the wrong solution. Mm-hmm. So she has some legitimate concerns about her finances, and I think, again, I want to validate that, but really what she is dealing with is her unresolved trauma. Mm-hmm. There is unhealed pain and unresolved fear that lies below the surface inside of her, causing great disruptions. And getting into really, really good therapy that digs underneath the surface, that again exposes the pain to the light of healing and exposes the fear to the light of resources, then her whole functioning shifts and changes. Mm-hmm. And her whole outlook shifts and changes, and she won't just be looking to a 15-year plan as her ultimate source of okayness in the world. She'll find it here and today with some good therapy.
And having someone skilled to walk you through that, Carmen, yes. I think will be really helpful. I think Take Your Life Back will probably be a really good book for her.
That's good.
Okay, so Carmen, thank you for calling us back. I don't know what happened, but stay on the phone. We'll send you a copy of the book, Take Your Life Back. Did you have a question for her or anything? No. Okay. So, Carmen, thanks for calling us back. Now let's go to Juan, who is in New Mexico, watching us on YouTube. Let's wave to Juan. How can we help you today, Juan?
Yes, I'm initially called in for a previous show, and the topic was triggers, or I think... Marc had actually started it as something about his heating system going down, and instead of $1,000, whatever. But the point was that it lingered on into Chris followed up and sort of leaned into triggers, and I just had more questions about that. And then coming into this show, I definitely let Carmen know she's not alone, because. Boy, I guess it's been almost 3 years now, and I'm not accident prone, but I've been knocked down one way or another. And fortunately, I'm a little bit of, like they say, God, if you're open to it in trials and tribulations, some of the biggest blessings. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's because God slows you down or he opens you up, but today I don't call in just to be calling in, but that topic really hit me, and I was wondering, I read, and I'm really fond of Henry Cloud and John Townsend, and just like the book on trust that I'm still gaining, hopefully, more wisdom from. But what I wanted to ask about triggers and stuff, and all this information, it's like, how do you, knowing, that's why we need God, is because we're all broken or sinners, and I've even heard that sometimes God won't take away even some of your strongholds because he wants to make sure you depend on him and not your own understanding. But the idea that how do you fit in life, because life doesn't wait around, and, eternity is, and the gift of Jesus in your life is a blessing, and a gift, but the idea of doing your best right here and now, so you show that joy as a Christian and believer. So even when you're down and sick.
Juan, what are you struggling with? What's the biggest struggle in your life right now? Because I'm sensing that you're wanting to have this forward-thinking attitude, but there's things that are you're struggling with right now that are preventing that. What's the biggest struggle in your life?
Probably, I've got multiple injuries, and I was in, and the second incident took precedence over the first, but by the time I got to physical therapy for the second, the Monday after the Friday, I had a really bad fall, and they couldn't see me for the first incident because I had to go to the emergency room or whatever to have surgery. Just done, you don't have to go into all the details. But anyways, one thing after the other, then a hit-and-run accident and falling down 2 levels of stairs and trying to protect my arm in a sling after the surgery I had to have on my left shoulder.
Hey, Juan, hold on, let me jump in. Do you have people around you helping you? Do you have a good support system?
You know, I'm working on it.
Okay.
And
yeah.
One of the best things I'm able to do is network, or at least I've been told from former law enforcement law jobs that I'm an excellent networker. But the truth, the idea that, it's just, I don't know why this thought came into me, but I'm still having withdrawal symptoms from Steve not being around all the time. But, you guys have a really strong bench, because there's like 3 of you that I think are like you, Chris, and then Brian does an awesome job. But the people that have that gift, just starting the show, it's kind of nice. It's almost like, well, those are big shoes to fill. But getting back to your question, pardon me, I guess I'm nervous about being vulnerable on national radio or whatever this is.
Well, Juan, let me jump in and see if I can help you, because
please help me.
The first thing I would say is this: I love that you're digging into the books. I love that you're reading Henry Cloud's book, Trust. I would recommend other resources, especially Safe People would be another resource.
I'm doing Henry Cloud's session on YouTube now.
Perfect.
Because I have the book somewhere around here.
Perfect.
And,
but let me jump in. So, as you're doing that, I think the best purposes of these books are to help us read a critical book. It's the book of yourself, the book of Juan. To understand you at a much, much deeper level, how you function, how you dysfunction, not to hold a lot of shame around that, but hold a lot of grace, but honesty around all of that. Because I think you're dealing with a lot of questions that remain unanswerable and reasonably unanswerable. Why did this injury happen? Why is it the piling up of these things and what's going on in my life that could be shaking my faith and taking me out of the life that I want to live, causing a lot of questions, causing a lot of doubts and insecurities, and all of those things are very, very reasonable. And I do believe, I'm a big believer in finding the purpose of God in any and all circumstances and situations, and especially in the ones that we suffer. But I just find in my own life, Juan, when God slows me down, or when life slows me down for whatever reason, that oftentimes it's so I can slow down long enough to read my story and the story that God is writing inside of me, or trying to write inside of me.
Well, in order to be able to do that too, Juan, you need to, I know you're talking about here about how can you focus more on the future and the blessing and everything that we've got, but we need to be present focused too and remind ourselves of what's happening in the moment. And so you've had multiple injuries, but I would encourage you to think about this as multiple losses too. And whenever we have loss, we go through the grief process. I was there a few years ago where I had three breaks within a year and 2 surgeries, and I just didn't know if it was going to get better or not. And I mean, I knew that my life was more than that, but when you're in pain, when you don't know, you go into depression, you go into a sadness, and then you also have to kind of recalibrate, is this permanent, and how do I deal with this too? So getting into grief share group and to recognize in the present that, yes, you have losses, and learning how to process that in the present, in community, like Chris is saying, I think that could be part of your healing process here. I encourage you, that we're going to be having groups that are going to be starting up on Zoom, the 12-week groups, New Life courses. There's going to be one called Take Your Life Back. I wonder if that will be good for you. It starts the week of April 7th.
I think it'd be really good. Yeah.
You mentioned grief. There's also a grief recovery course that's happening.
It is. I think that's more for a loss of a loved one, so that's why I recommended the Take Your Life Back.
Yes.
But it is grief that one is suffering with. It's, we go through grief when we have loss, but that's a special type of grief called bereavement. But anytime you have loss of anything, you go through the grief process.
Yeah.
So Take Your Life Back. The course begins on April 7th. It's a 12-week course. It's online. You can get all the details about it at newlife.com. And Juan mentioned that he called because on a previous episode, we were talking about triggers. We have a tip sheet available that was co-written by Chris Williams, who's here on the program with us today. And you can order this tip sheet. It's free. We'll send it out to you when you call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Again, it's called What to Do When You Get Triggered. And we've got more phone calls coming up. Joe, Jackie, everyone else who wants to ask a question, call us up. We will be right with you.
My husband and I just found out that my son is having sex with his girlfriend. He's 18.
I was addicted to pornography since high school.
We did some research and discovered that men ages 18 to 25 were being challenged with their sexual integrity, and we wanted to provide a way for them to get some help. And they were interested in a 12-week course, Every Young Man's Battle, helping men deal with sexual integrity. And if you are of that age group, or if you know somebody in that age group, a man who maybe porn has gotten a hold of their life, maybe multiple sexual partners, whatever the struggle is, we want to help them in these early years.
Join a shame-free community beginning April 7th to help you become the man of integrity you aspire to be. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
My name is Brian Perez. I'm here with licensed marriage and family therapists Chris Williams and Marc Cameron, and we're going to go to Joe in a moment. But first,
let me just correct myself because I said the grief recovery group was just about loss of a loved one, but it's not. I didn't read the whole thing. It's loss of anything. So pet, a house, just anything that's a difficult loss in your life, you can sign up for the grief recovery group.
And people grieve differently. So it's something where someone might not think that they're equal, like losing a child is different than losing a pet, but still impacts everybody differently.
Or losing function of a body part, something like that. That people forget that. If you go into dialysis or something like that, you go through the grief process.
Yeah, loss of a dream, loss of a job, and I just want to remind people out there that oftentimes our unresolved grief turns into either anxiety or anger. And so if you're dealing with anger triggers or you're stuck in cycles of anxiety, you may want to look at losses in your life. And again, I can't encourage people enough to check out our New Life courses.
They begin on April 7th. You can find out all about them at newlife.com. Joe in Tulsa, Oklahoma, thank you for listening on Sirius XM, the Family Talk channel, 131. How can we help you today, Joe?
Yes, sir. I guess the question I have revolves around what it seems like is going on a lot in society today. And I feel like people, including myself, I think I did that. I kind of idolized the idea of love, relationship, it could be sex, anything like that. Anything to do with love, marriage, relationship, sex. And if you idolize the idea of marriage, then you're not really I don't feel like now with what I've been through that you're really prioritizing or thinking about marriage and what it should be. And I guess it seems like what you're hearing more and more of these days, and maybe it ain't just these days, maybe it's been all along, but when someone says, they need somebody, that it's kind of became, putting off to me lately when they're, someone says, I need you, I'm like, you shouldn't need someone else. I guess in my opinion, that's kind of what I'm trying to decipher between, is that right? Should you need somebody, or should we basically say the only one that we need is God? And I wrote something, I wrote something recently. I was listening to a sermon by a very good pastor, and what he started talking about was when people sin more, but they enjoy it less, a false prosperity. And what I wrote was, I put, until we learn not to worship the idea of love, marriage, relationship, sex, stuff like that, learn to worship the Creator who created them, will we ever find true love? Because to be able to give true love, we have to have it in ourselves first to give. And the only way to have that true love is to be filled with the love of Christ. And I'm kind of shortening it. In my opinion, people will know when they have it because they will not harbor self-indulgent desires and they seek a mate or relationships. Instead, their thoughts will be more consumed with how can they share that one and only God-given pure love together.
So, Joe, really quick, questions for you. How long were you married? How long have you been divorced? And are you in a relationship right now, a new relationship, or thinking of starting one?
I was married for about 8 years. I am divorced, and I'm not in a new relationship, and I'm not even, actually right now, I don't find myself even in a state of wanting to start one yet, to be honest, because I feel like, I don't want someone that says, that's going to say like they're needy, they need me.
Right.
So, so Joe, let me jump in real quickly, man.
Okay.
It sounds like you're trying to figure out the unfigure-outable. Okay. So there's a lot of reasoning you're going into all of this, but I love the direction that you're going. I really do. I think and if maybe we can just guide that a little bit more. Do we need other people? It's a hard yes. We don't live on planet Earth without other people. Do we need God? Obviously, it's a hard yes. Do we need ourselves? Yes. And it really speaks to the ancient, timeless, even eternal wisdom of the greatest commandment, to love the Lord God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love others as self. There is all of these connected. It's like its own earthly trinity. If there's a heavenly trinity in Father, Son, Holy Spirit, there's an earthly trinity in God, self, and others that we're trying to lean and learn about and grow into. And I do think that you're right, to be overly dependent on one or the other, to create it as an idol, the very source of our safety, security, and confidence in the world, can lead to a lot of damaging and hurtful results. But where I'd want to encourage you, very just kind of like concretely, is that when we go to the list in 1 Corinthians 13, and we take it out of the context of marriage and just our human experience, and say that, inside of me is a lot of envy. And as long as there's a lot of envy, that's going to block some love in my life. If there's self-seeking, so we have a list of 7 things that love is not and 7 things that love is. And we start looking at those as mirrors and feedback mechanisms and trying to rid ourselves, with God's help, of the things that are unlove and cultivate the things that are love.
We'll hear Marc Cameron has to say when we come back from the break. Joe, thank you for calling in today. Jackie, we see you up there as well. And anyone else who wants to call in, we will answer your question this hour here on New Life Live. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget that we have devotions and newsletters available that you can sign up for with your email address on our website, newlife.com. Go there, and you can also follow us on social media while you're there.
I've been struggling with a porn addiction for the last 20 years.
Are you struggling with porn? New Life's Every Man's Battle Intensive can help.
Every Man's Battle explains to you why you are like you are, and they give you the tools and they show you how to work your way through the problems and where to get help and how to get help and who to get help through.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Intensive.
This was the first time in my life that I ever felt comfortable in sharing the real me with other men.
Get help on February 28th in Orange County, California. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to register or to find out more. 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Use the discount code NLL to save $50 on your registration.
Every Man's Battle was a life-changing experience for me.
You don't have to struggle any longer. 1-800-NEWLIFE. Club New Life changes lives.
I think I go way back to listening to New Life, learning so much from it, and then becoming a Club New Life member.
Club New Life is a monthly giving family that helps New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people.
You know, I'm so thankful because, you know why I keep giving? Because I keep learning, and I'm so thankful for all the lives that you touch every day and the people's lives. So when I get to still hear the radio show, it's just so encouraging to my heart.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
And you know one reason I give? Because I feel like sometimes I'm hiding behind a counselor's couch, listening to all this great information and not paying, so my guilt of this great advice is alleviated by being a Club New Life member.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. And together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Actually, we are very glad that you've joined us today on New Life Live. My name is Brian Perez. Licensed marriage and family therapists Chris Williams and Marc Cameron are here to talk to you. Jackie, we'll get to you in a second, but let's finish up with Joe. Are you still there, Joe?
Well, whether you are or you're not, I'm going to talk to you, Joe.
Yes.
So,
here we go.
Yeah, I think you're still processing your divorce here, Joe. I think that's where you're in a lot of hurt of, you know, maybe I can be alone because the being alone might be better than the fear of getting hurt again. And I think you probably went into marriage with something called the romantic solution. And the romantic solution is if I just find the right person, everything will be good and everything will be okay in my life. And then that didn't work out for you. So now you are in the grief process. We were talking about loss before, loss of a marriage. You're going to go through the grief process here. And I think as you go through the grief process and you grieve the loss, I think the last part of that is coming to acceptance, but it's also coming to a knowledge of what happened and how did I get stuck in this romantic solution. And so if you can figure out more about your attachment style and how you've learned to attach to others, you'll be able to make sense of that process so that you can go into the next relationship with a different mindset. There's a great book written by Henry Cloud called How to Get a Date Worth Keeping. And it's just a fantastic way of how to get out there and meet others. And just for the enjoyment of meeting others, but also for the learning of yourself. And maybe you're not ready for that yet, Joe, but I'd encourage you we'll send you that book, but also get into a group, Grief Share, or maybe you can join the Grief Recovery New Life courses that we've got starting April 7th. But learn or get into therapy and just process the grief of your divorce.
Yeah.
So Joe was saying that, you know, he doesn't want to be in another relationship or anything, and because of this marriage and divorce that he went through. Would you guys agree or disagree with, is it Shakespeare? It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
That's a great question, Brian. I would say yes and no.
Okay.
Because it depends on what we're talking about here. My guess is that Joe has some significant loss early in his life. My guess is that mom or dad left the scene early for whatever reason. And so there's that hole that's left behind, and a romantic, the romantic solution that Marc was referring to fills that hole. It is this idea that a romantic experience or partner will cure my internal ills and my internal suffering, which is, could be grief. But that Joe hit a threshold, that once this last divorce was one too many losses for him, and his pain, and he's exceeded his pain tolerance for relationship because he's exceeded his pain tolerance for loss. That's why he really needs to get into the healing process that a grief recovery group can offer him.
Yeah, and I think if you haven't experienced love, then you don't know what that experience is like, and it's going to stop you from connecting with others in that way. But as I was saying to Joe, I forget who it was, and you probably know, Chris, who came up with an additional stage to grief, which was meaning.
Oh,
and
yes, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's learning not just getting to acceptance, but you can move beyond that and make meaning about what happened to me.
Yeah, that would be Viktor Frankl, yeah.
Yeah, yes, and I know he talked about that too. Yeah, so if you can find meaning for the loss, you can move forward in that and get past the pain.
That's really good, Marc.
Joe, thank you for calling in today on New Life Live. We have helped so many people on today's program and over the course of the past several years, decades, and you can help us make a difference in the lives of people by becoming a contributor. Club New Life is something that we have online. You can find out about it at newlife.com. It's where you become, you just send us a monthly donation. It could be a small donation. It could be a large, whatever the Lord puts on your heart. Get more details at newlife.com or by calling us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Brian, can I jump in with something?
You can.
Because Joe mentioned divorce. And this is really important because one of our New Life courses, and I'd be remiss not to mention this, is divorce recovery. Which that is designed to equip you with the steps that you need to recover post-divorce. And a lot of these things can come up and really help him and be doing this in a group. So Joe, if you're still on, please sign up today for that New Life course, Divorce Recovery.
Yeah, there's several of these courses. They all start April 7th. Divorce Recovery, Take Your Life Back, Grief Recovery, also Every Young Man's Battle. That's for sexual integrity and sexual issues like that, and then Lose It for Life, which is having to do with permanent weight loss. Get all the details at newlife.com. Jackie, thank you for holding and for calling in today from Washington, D.C. and listening on WAVA.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thanks for taking my call. So I am getting a fairly difficult surgery in 1 month in my neck, and it will be my third surgery in the last 7 or 8 years. The prior surgery I had about a year ago did not work, and I've been in chronic pain for about a year. I'm actually in worse pain than I was before the surgery. I've noticed the last few weeks, as I'm weaning off the medication, that the stress is going up. I'm just wondering, I have a great support network. I have my husband. I'm in a 12-step group. I have my sponsor active in my church. But as this surgery is approaching, I'm just have a sense of pressure that it has to work because I just can't imagine going through more of what I've gone through. I did have to leave my job because of the pain. So I have some great tools, but with the surge and the stress, I'm just wondering if you can offer any practical advice to kind of prepare for the surgery so that I'm emotionally, mentally, spiritually fit.
That's good.
Yeah, Jackie, I just want to normalize a little bit about your experience, what you're going through. I think it would be fantastic, and I would love it for you if you could have complete peace and no worry at all. But I also want to let you know that it's completely normal to have anxiety about this and some worry and some fear, especially you've been through other surgeries and they haven't quite worked out, and now it sounds like this is a difficult surgery for you. So I just wanted to encourage you with that. There's a difference between state anxiety, which is there's good reason to have the anxiety for the circumstance, and trait anxiety, we're just kind of anxious, what we might call anxious people. We're just anxious about multiple things. And it sounds like this is appropriate state anxiety that you're having. I love that you have a great support network in your church and in your husband. I just wanted to encourage you in that it's okay to feel a little bit worried in the moment, but hold on to the things that you hope that strengthen you, like God and the Bible and promises.
Yeah. Mark, you mentioned the word hope. I actually wrote that down and circled it. And part of it is where we put our hope. And Jackie, what I hear in this, and it makes, and to reiterate what Mark is saying, is it makes perfect sense. The hope is in a successful surgery because you are in a suffering, painful state. And our suffering, painful state wants one thing: for it to end, for it to be out of it. And so it turns into this energy inside of us that can be very desperate. And that desperate energy is looking for that hope. And then the surgery is scheduled. And then the surgery becomes, quite honestly, too big of a deal. And that might sound kind of crazy, but it's like either the surgery is going to hold all of the solutions to my life, or it's going to just contribute and affirm all of the pain and the problems of my life. And that's going to put a ton of pressure on the outcome of the surgery. And here is as much as we love our medical advancements and as much solution as they've provided us, this outcome, unfortunately, and this may be anxiety-provoking, is still somewhat uncertain, and we don't have control over it. And so part of that is looking at, if we're going to diversify your portfolio, we're going to diversify your hope portfolio. I do want you to have hope in the surgery, but to Mark's point, I want you to diversify your hope into other aspects of your life. And I also, pain wants to also consume every part of our life, including our perspective. And so it may require a little bit more effort and fight for the good perspective, the good things in your life, and form your perspective around that, because my goodness, friend, you are doing a great job in your support systems and getting into healthy processes.
Every Believer's Thought Life, would that be a good resource for her, you think? Yeah. Okay, so stay on the phone and we'll send that to you, Jackie. And tomorrow, by the way, here at New Life, we've got a new video that we're going to add to our extensive video library. It's with Chris Williams himself, the man, the myth, who's here in the studio today. It's called The Secret of Contentment. You can get that tomorrow on newlife.com in our video library. Okay, we'll be back with more of your questions here on New Life Live. Thanks for listening and thanks for calling in today.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. For over 35 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addiction, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
I found a counselor through New Life Ministries, and it's just been outstanding.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first steps toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door for a better tomorrow.
To get someone that's competent, that's good at what they do, it's been like day and night compared to what I've had before.
Call 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Thanks so much for having us on today, whether online or on the radio, or you're listening on a podcast, or so many ways to listen nowadays. I forget them all. YouTube, Facebook, NRB TV, Sirius XM. It's great. Now, we are here a few days a week, a couple hours a day at a time to talk to you, to answer the questions you have. But maybe it's still not easy for you to call in during that time. So we have other ways that you can get your question to us. Go to newlife.com/radio, and you can see how you can send us a message, either like a voicemail type of message, or you can type in your question and send it to us. That is what Ann did. And here is the question that Ann has. Is it possible to be a pleaser who avoids, married to an avoider who controls? I just finished reading How We Love for the second time. I used to think I was a pleaser, especially with friends. I used to be a pleaser with my husband, but over the years I think I've just shut down, and now I'm an avoider. He is definitely an avoider, but also can be controlling. He gets angry and wants things to go his way. I wanted us to read the book together, but he said, not until we get past the SAD season, SAD, seasonal affective disorder. I've struggled with depression all my life, but have been stable on meds for a while. I'm not depressed right now. I think he just wanted to blame me for not reading the book, rather than admit he doesn't want to go there. We live like roommates. We sleep in separate rooms. We've been married 43 years. We haven't had sex in 15 years. We're in our 60s. He doesn't look at porn. The computer is where I can see it. He doesn't have a phone. Any help that you can provide would be great. Also, a side note here, Ann says, I'm a Club New Life member for 30 years. Thank you for your show.
Wow.
Yay.
30-year Club New Life member.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's one of the first here.
One of the originals.
I'm sure, yeah. So, Anne, this is a great question here to figure out about different attachment styles. So there are similarities between the attachment styles. So pleasers also avoid. They use avoidance as a strategy. Both pleasers and avoiders are conflict avoidant. But pleasers also want to stay close because they feel a lot of anxiety, whereas avoiders, they do have anxiety, but they just don't know it. And then you were referencing your husband. You say he's an avoider who controls. I wonder if he's really more of a vacillator, because vacillators also use avoidance and detachment as a strategy, but they get angry. But their anger is designed to get the other person to come close to them. However, their anger often pushes the other person away from them. And then you get caught in a cycle, what we call Mylan and Kay Yerkovich, who wrote the book How We Love, called the core pattern. And everybody needs to discover their core pattern in marriage, because it either drives you closer together into healing and security, or it drives you further apart into insecurity. And now, coupled with all of that, it sounds like he's also dealing with depression. And depression can either make us sad or angry too. And it sounds like it's seasonal affective disorder, which happens during the winter months in many states where they experience a heavy winter, and just the environment impacts your mood here. So I think most likely the proper diagnosis for you guys is pleaser vacillator. And if you get into the book and you go through the workbook, if you can get into the core and to see the core pattern between those two, the ultimate solution is learning how to do the comfort circle. How do we how do we get together into listener-speaker roles where I can hear you out in an effective way, and then we can switch roles and you can hear me out in an effective way? That's the solution for all these core patterns. It's just there's difficulty for each of the insecure attachment styles in learning how to do that. And if you can't do that together, you may need the help of a therapist. And your husband may also need medication if he's experiencing a mood disorder, because it's just an imbalance in chemicals in the brain.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's interesting that she both mentioned that they're pleasers. And so when our primary way of going about relationships doesn't work, we eventually we shift to something else. So there's also this thing where it's like, I'm going to please, I'm going to please, I'm going to please. And if it doesn't work and you're not happy with me, or Mark, you're disappointed with me, then I'm out. That's the avoidance, right? Or I'm trying to please you, I'm trying to please you, I'm trying to please you, and it doesn't work. Then I go to control, i.e. vacillation. That is a person who ramps up. And so there's two things in our brain that are happening there. Oftentimes we have what I refer to as a default system. And the fancy words there are hyperarousal, where we go energy up, which looks like anger and control.
Above the surface.
Yes, yeah. Or we go hypoarousal, which is energy down.
Below the surface.
Below the surface. So one is passive and one is aggressive. Both are forms of control.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right.
All of the attachment styles want control. It just looks differently.
Yes. But unfortunately, we end up arguing over the avoidance or the control, but we never get to the core issue. Because, Anne, in your marriage, going to the comfort circle as the solution, because it is the solution, you both have unseen hurts and fears. You have untouched pain. And that's why there is this huge block of intimacy and frustration. And so you really, this marriage is in way more crisis than I even think that because of, you may have adapted to this way. But you're writing in at the right time, because it will take something more, something different. And I think that, the design of Intimacy and Marriage Workshop is specifically for you and your husband. And I love you're doing this work. And the last thing I would add on to all of this is that I can't do my spouse's work for her, nor can she do it for me. I have to get really, really, really intimate and close and clear on for me, it's a pleaser avoider as well, on why I do that. And what I've had to learn, and still learning to this day, is a relationship to anger and disappointment. And to no longer hide from it or cower from it or try to control it, but to address it and move into it and work through it.
Yeah, and we're talking about here the core pattern. But also some people become comfortable in the core pattern. And it's really the cycle of discontentment. And the fact that your marriage has gone for 16 years sexless, you both, and it's not been addressed, is because you both become more comfortable in the discontentment than addressing the growth. Because in the nature of growth is going to be discomfort. And it may even involve some levels of pain, but you have to choose which pain am I willing to have? Am I willing to have the pain of change, which leads to growth and healing, or do I just stay in the pain of discomfort and discontentment?
Well, and I think there is a step faith here, because it's choosing our pain, but it's also choosing something that initially is going to require faith. And I'm going to put this in a quick different category. A lot of people who struggle with getting sober in addiction don't yet know the full benefits of sobriety, how amazing that life can be. Not easy, but certainly amazing. Much like moving into deeper levels of intimacy, addressing really hard problems, you're going to choose your pain, but you're also going to choose your pleasure. And the pleasure of an intimate relationship is much better than the pleasure of self-medicating, however you may be doing that, to cope with a disconnected marriage.
Yeah, so I would say here, and work on yourself, work on your insecure attachment style, and that will give your husband a different person, if you will, to deal with, and he'll be challenged to give a different reaction to your differing response.
Yeah.
Now, Ann, it might be too late for you to join us for the Intimacy and Marriage Intensive, which begins tomorrow in Orange County, California, but we do have others scheduled later in the year. You can go to newlife.com to find out when and where those will be held. There's also an Every Man's Battle Intensive happening at the end of this month. That is for men who are struggling with sexual integrity. Again, more details at newlife.com. And the Restore Healing After Betrayal Intensive. That's for women. It's coming up in May in Dallas. And we are out of time on today's episode of New Life Live. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. God bless you.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video? And please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.